Hello, I'm Chef Scott Turner with the Sullivan University's National Center for Hospitality Studies in Louisville, Kentucky. And today I'm going to be showing you a brief demonstration on how to correctly temper chocolate using the seeding method, one of three popular methods to recrystallize the fat in chocolate that makes it set again so that we can make beautiful decorations, fine candies, and showpieces. What we're going to do today is start with a 56% couverture or chocolate. And what that means is the percentage is representing the amount of chocolate mass or cocoa mass within that product. The higher the percentage, the better it is for you if you're into nutrition in that aspect. What I'm going to begin with is I think of chocolate in thirds, no matter which method I employ. So if I had 3 pounds of chocolate today, I would melt 2 of those pounds and hold another pound aside for seeding. These coins, or calettes as they're called, would be placed inside the melted chocolate, which has been melted at a temperature of about 113 to 120 degrees. I want to stir that chocolate and keep it moving, and then begin adding those coins to the chocolate in a relatively decent supply to begin with. I don't want to use the complete extra third. I'll use about half of that remaining third so that I can begin the cooling process on this fine chocolate. And what will happen is right away many of those calettes or small coins will begin to melt. That tells me that the chocolate's pretty hot and it needs more to cool down a little quicker. I don't want to draw this process out very long because it actually won't work and I'll have to go back and start all over again, and that's not a whole lot of fun. We want to do it once and do it correctly. Another method to employ when tempering chocolate is the tabling method. Showed you the seeding method previously. This method is a little more fun, it's a little more exciting, it's a little more hands-on. We're actually going to pour 2/3 of our chocolate out onto a marble slab, or a granite slab, or a marble table, depending on what you have available to you. This marble slab here is probably a good 25 years old, and it was a scrap from a stone yard that you can pick up and have beveled and smoothed out for your own use. A lot of new homes today have nice granite and marble countertops in them, which work very well too, but here at the school we use these for tabling. We're always trying to work clean. A lot of people are chocolate magnets, that's what I call them. They get near chocolate and it instantly attaches itself all over their chef coat and their uniforms and their shirts and pants and everything else. So the tabling method requires you to manipulate the chocolate around the marble slab. And what that marble slab is actually doing is drawing the heat away from the chocolate to cool it down. It's a little bit noisy, but I think of it as being therapeutic as well. I forget all my troubles when I'm standing here working in the chocolate. It makes for a good day. So the process is the same. Again, we're trying to cool this chocolate down and get our fat crystals into alignment to where this will set up with a really nice snap and shine, as it was when we first opened the package and began to melt it. Those are the quality indicators in fine chocolate: snap and shine. So as I watch this moving around the marble slab, I can see the viscosity changing. In other words, it's getting thicker, and as it thickens, the 6 known fat molecules within cocoa butter, which cocoa butter is the fat within this chocolate, begin to come into alignment. And as they come into alignment, the chocolate will begin to set up again and harden into that nice snap and shine that we're looking for. We want to be careful not to leave remnants behind because those will become chunks and get in the way of our chocolate processing. So I have 2/3 on the marble slab, 1/3 still hot in the bowl, and then once I've cooled this down, I'm going to add it back to the bowl of hot chocolate, not the kind you drink, but hot chocolate in that it's warmer than what I've cooled on the slab, and then the two will come together and give us that balance if all goes well. And then there are things we can do to test to make sure that our chocolate has come back to where it needs to be so that we can use it successfully. So chocolate's not as simple as just melting it and using it how you want. You have to do things, you have to have some knowledge and some skill to bring it back to its original state so that it will do all those wonderful things. And this is the same for milk and white chocolate as well. The difference being the temperatures that you're going to melt those types of chocolate to are going to be a little bit lower. So we warm this to 113. We're going to cool it down to anywhere from around 86 to 88 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to hold it between 88 and 91 degrees Fahrenheit for using it to produce the things we're going to produce. All right, so it looks very cool right now. I'm going to pull it towards the edge of the marble slab. You can actually see it starting to stick to the slab, getting much, much thicker. It's a lot of fun when you do about 20 pounds. This isn't quite that much. It's a little more difficult to manage. And I'm going to now put this back in the bowl as I bring this slab closer to the edge of the table so I don't make a mess. And you can see that that chocolate has gotten much, much colder. In fact, it's cooling enough to where it's setting up on the slab. And what I'll do from there is stir this in, and that'll cool that chocolate down to the tempered range that we're looking for. And as that cools, I need to clean my slab. And it's not as simple as a paper towel or a damp cloth or a scrubby that's going to clean this slab off. I actually have to go to the hardware store perhaps and get a nice torch to help me do this. So I'm going to use this scraper, this putty knife, to move the cooled chocolate off to one side because I don't want to throw that away. That's still good chocolate. It's just set up now. And then I will clean my tools, and I will clean my marble slab with a damp towel and a hot blowtorch. Now that our chocolate is in temper, we're going to do a little test just to make sure that we can confirm that that's true prior to beginning work. And what that means is I'm going to put a little bit of chocolate on my palette knife here, and within about a minute or two, I want to see it begin to glaze over. I don't want to see streaks. I don't want to see a white, streaky color on top as well. That would be the fat coming to the surface. We call that fat bloom. That's not a desirable finish in our chocolate. You may have seen that in a candy bar in the grocery store or something on those lines. But we're going to watch that chocolate begin to glaze over, and I feel pretty confident that it's going to, so I'm going to begin the process of making a simple chocolate garnish. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of chocolate on my marble slab. I'm going to use a large offset palette knife to spread it out nice and smooth. And once that's begun to glaze over, I'm going to use my putty knife once again. A bench scraper will work for this, as well as a non-serrated slicing knife. So let's go ahead and put a little chocolate on the slab. We can see that that chocolate is in fact glazing over. Another thing I want to be wary of is any water that might be on the bottom of my bowl from my double boiler. I don't want the water to get in the chocolate. That'll cause it to seize and become solid before I'm ready for that to happen. It'll also leave streaks in my chocolate and create something else called sugar bloom. So the process is very simple. Spreading the chocolate back and forth on the marble slab, trying to get it nice and smooth and even. And as I do this, the more I do it, the cooler it gets much more quickly, the more manipulation there is. So I want a nice cool breeze to come across the surface here and hope for the best. Cleaning my tools, keeping my tools clean all the time. Again, so I don't become a chocolate magnet, as mentioned before. And then the other thing I can do is have a small paper piping bag, a parchment bag, or a coronet. I'm going to put chocolate in that in a moment once we've done this garnish, and I'm going to pipe on a plate as I would for an upscale plated dessert, fine dining, something on those lines. So let's see if our chocolate's ready. We're going to clean this up just a little bit. And already I've begun to get chocolate that is setting up, but it's a little soft and pliable, and the room temperature can affect that as well. If it's soft and pliable or malleable, it means the chocolate is still too warm. All those crystals haven't quite come into alignment yet, but I can still do fun things with it. So after I get this cleaned up, I'll show you some of the garnishes. The first one is what most people call a cigarette, or it's a long chocolate stick. It's not necessarily hollow in the center, but as it comes off the end of my palette knife, I get this nice garnish, and I can make them long, I can make them short. I can do this same process as chocolate curls. If my chocolate begins to cool on the surface, I can warm it up with my hand, and then once I get going with this, it's pretty simple. I can just kind of shoot down the line here and keep these little guys rolling off like it's meant to be, like I've done this before. And here is a beautiful chocolate garnish. And in different shapes and sizes, these can be used on torts, cakes. Cupcakes nowadays are very trendy and popular. They can be used on plated desserts and petit fours. Another simple thing I can do is a chocolate curl or a ruffle. And I'm simply going to put my fingertip on the end of this blade, and I'm going to push it through that chocolate. Now, as the chocolate gets cool, it starts to crack. And this may be a little cool here. Let's see if we can make something work here for you. Yeah. And we get this kind of fan effect. It's kind of fanning out and ruffling, which can also be used as a garnish on a cake or a dessert or something on those lines. And again, any scraps or mistakes I have along the way, I don't want to throw those in the trash. Those are things I can use later on for different products, cakes, desserts, again, petit fours and that sort of thing. So now that that's complete, I want to go ahead and show you a technique for piping on a plate, again, as for a plated dessert. And that's just a matter of taking my piping bag, and a small plastic spoon will work just fine. I never want to fill these up more than halfway or I'll end up with a big mess. I want to be careful that there aren't any chunks or anything like that in my chocolate that will cause the tip to clog. And this is a technique that we use here in our modern pastry techniques class for our plated dessert module that the students do for about 3 weeks. And what that means is they're doing upscale restaurant style plated desserts, and they're decorating plates that may have different elements, fruit, sauces, garnishes, maybe a mousse for a dessert, something on those lines. And it's something they also have to plan and prepare for practical testing. So I'm just going to set that aside, clean that up a little bit so I don't get that all over everything. And then I'm going to hold the seam of the bag away from me. I'm going to roll that bag up towards me. And I'm just going to clean things up here a little bit again so I don't get it all over that nice clean plate. I'm going to cut a very, very small hole in the tip of the bag. I like to do a very, very fine, clean line. I'm going to test it to make sure it's working, and it is. Take my plate. And when you're piping on a plate, you want to have an idea of what you're going to do. The problem is if you think about it too much, you find that your mind, your eyes follow what you're going to do, and you end up making a big mess. So you just got to let it go. Just got to let things happen here and just let it flow. And then you end up with a very beautiful, elegant plate design. And then I can go back and put some enhancements, just some simple little chocolate dots. Now, if my chocolate's too cold, it's going to leave little points like a Hershey Kiss. That doesn't mean my chocolate has gone out of temper. What it means is it's gotten cool. It's on the cool side of that temper. So it's leaving those little points. And then this would finish nicely with some type of dessert placed somewhere in this area. There are some loops here for a sauce, or maybe some other type of element that'll go in there, perhaps ice cream or sorbet or some fresh fruit. So those are the basic fundamentals to 2 different methods of tempering chocolate. There's one other method, it's called the direct method, which can be done in a microwave, or it can be done on the stovetop as well, whereby you would put the entire quantity of chocolate in the saucepan or in the microwave, and you would melt it 2/3 of the way, remove it from the heat, and allow the remaining third of chocolate to melt down into that chocolate and bring your chocolate into crystallization, as we've done here today with our 56% couverture. Thank you.